You are listening to Hilary Topper on Air, the small business podcast to help you grow both personally and professionally. And now, here's your host, Hilary Topper.
Ron English, known as the godfather of street art, is one of the most prolific and recognizable artists alive. He is credited with graffiti's transition from a subcultural form of popular expression to the decorative, narrative murals seen around the world today. I'm Hilary Topper, and this is Hilary Topper on Air. Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with Jaffe, founder and owner of Pop International Galleries, an art gallery on the Bowery at the junction of Spring Street in New York City, and Ron English, America's premier pop iconoclast. Welcome to the show, guys.
Lovely to be here.
So, Jeff and Ron, it's so exciting to have you both on the show. So we're here to learn more about PopAganda on paper, the virtual exhibit now happening at Pop International Galleries. So can you explain to us what PopAganda means?
PopAganda is just kind of playing with the mechanisms used by advertising and by political campaigns around the world, which is usually considered propaganda. But it's just kind of something I have fun with that format, and I kind of say things like about advertising that they would never say about themselves. So there may be some attribute to their product that they probably don't want to promote. So like one of my early ones just was a giant ad for Coca-Cola. It says, "Drink Coke, makes you fart." It's just something that they may not want to highlight about their product. So. And also early on, I actually started in the 70s by making fake products and putting them in grocery stores, because I kind of got the idea that I like pop art, but the ultimate place to look at art is kind of the supermarket, because if you think about every package design is art, and it's put on the outside of the package, and it's the last chance to have an ad for the product before you actually decide to purchase a product or walk away from the product. So like it's an overwhelming experience if you actually pay attention to all the art and the packaging inside the supermarket. And I just thought that would be a great place to do interventions.
So funny. I just wonder if did you film it at all to see what people's reaction was?
I have before. I think my most favorite reaction was I filled the milk container, or the refrigerator that has all the milk, with human breast milk. So like it's like a woman breastfeeding a baby, and it says pasteurized human breast milk. Now I don't know why that our species is completely mortified by drinking the milk of our own species, but we are. Maybe we're not when we're a baby, but we are. And then these two women came by, and they were just buying a bunch of chocolate milk, and then they reached over to grab one of those, and it was funny because they just stepped, like they almost fell over screaming, like it just
Right.
yeah. But it's nice to have people find art in unexpected places, when they're not really prepared to look at it.
Absolutely. So with this new theme, you told us a little bit about the inspiration. Why do you think it's timely now?
Well, the whole thing kind of weirdly happened because, when I had like every day booked for the next year and a half, and then the COVID hit, and very rapidly everything got canceled. And suddenly I was looking at a year and a half with absolutely nothing going on, which I was, I'm quite fine with, because an artist does need time, to work on things and develop ideas. And I think I also realized how grueling my life had been, because I did spend a lot of the time on the road, and we would do these huge tours. And anyway, that all came to an end. And so I wasn't really thinking about, I was thinking more long-term. I'm working on a big book and stuff. And then it turned out that I guess a lot of art is actually selling now. And so for Pop International, I gave them a couple pieces for maybe group shows or something, and I think they sold rather quickly. And then I started realizing, talking to other artists, they're like, "Wow, we've never sold more art in our life." Oh God, I guess I better get back to work. But this is normally I don't do works on paper, so this is something kind of different. Although I kind of approached it like I do a canvas anyway, so I just gesso the paper, and basically I just do a painting on the paper. But you know, it's a kind of different look because you get to put it in a frame, in a float frame, and it's displayed differently. But I guess at the end of the day, it's still a painting.
Oh,
So
absolutely. If I could just jump in on that score. We thought really long and hard about the idea of Ron making works on paper for this, mostly because this is ostensibly our first major virtual show. And we thought that the idea of propaganda on paper sort of resonated, it certainly resonated for me, and we thought it would resonate with our collectors based on some of the recent sales we have had. And incredibly so, people are just so excited by this.
Yeah, and the brutal reality of it is I don't, you know, the people that would come in and stretch my canvas and do all these different things, like there's nobody left. Everybody's gone. So I do everything by myself now. But
Reality.
yeah, I originally got the idea for painting on paper from Peter Saul.
Oh, really?
He did a lot of really nice works on paper, and
Yeah, yeah.
you just gesso the paper. It'll last 5,000 years. So,
so
but you know, I like to draw, and I do draw a lot. But I think that I just wanted to have a super serious show, and I wanted the stuff to be like, you know, I wanted it to be mind blowing, and you know, sometimes the drawings are really interesting, and that's obviously the basis of everything. But you know, I feel like these are like full on art, and the drawings are kind of a step in the process to get to this. So I just kind of wanted to go all the way with it.
can you share some of the ideas behind some of the works?
So I did a triptych of like Batman and Robin and the Joker, and that's kind of an interesting style because what I do is I make these really expressionistic type sculptures, and then I paint them, and then I coat them with a bunch of gloss, and then I light them, and then I paint them photorealistically, and then I add some kind of elements of expressionism. But if you look at it, they look very 3D, but then they look like they were kind of splash painted. So that's a technique that I've just started experimenting with. So actually, I put a couple on Instagram, and they got a lot of feedback. So I guess I'm onto something. And then a couple are just using characters, and I'd say the one with Tony Tiger and Captain Cornstarch, they're just like, that's kind of my normal style, like fully rendered with I kind of build little sets and make the background so that everything looks right. The reflections of the ship look right in the ocean and stuff. So I would say there's about 3 different representations of my work in this show.
Awesome. So what do you want people to take away from this show?
I would like them to take away like a piece of art.
I was just going to say the same thing. I swear I was just going to say the same thing.
But it's because I think now people are having a different relationship with their art because now people are at home and they're not going to work every day, and they actually are spending the whole day with their art.
Mhm.
So I think even, you know, as I said in rendered stuff, I felt like that I'm making something that somebody's going to look at, you know, every day for the next 40 years. So I just wanted to make sure that it just filled you with joy, that every time you saw it, that it was like a magical thing to see it. And that's something, you know, it's also something, it's like a giving back, because I've collected art, you know, since the 80s. And I think one of the reasons that I've not had any depression or had any down days, you know, being stuck in my house, is because it's just filled with beautiful art, and it's just like magical to walk around the house and see stuff every day. And it kind of brightens your spirits and informs you and inspires you. And also the weird thing about other people's art is, like, if I hang my own art up, then I keep thinking maybe I should have made it that background blue instead of red. But with,
Right.
you know, like with a Keith Haring or something, you don't feel like, I probably shouldn't fix that. That's his thing, man.
Yeah, especially today. I mean, people need a little bit of uplifting. I mean, everybody's so depressed, right?
Yeah.
And
And sometimes it seems like what we're doing as artists is frivolous. And I think that one thing that this time has told me, that it's actually not. It really feeds people and
yeah.
keeps them inspired and keeps them, you know, sane.
If I could jump in on that one, I, having sort of lived in New York City now for the last 7 months, literally, you know, sequestered in a small apartment in Manhattan, the thing that was absolutely inspiring to me, and certainly my wife, sort of locked up there, was being able to look at the art that we have in our apartment, and it's jammed with art. we kind of have been collecting art as well for many years, and this was one of those times where we just shut off the TV for a minute and look at the art and say, hey, you remember when that came in, and you remember meeting that artist and how we acquired that, and part of my policy of being an art gallery owner is to own literally, whenever it's possible, a piece of art by every artist I've ever represented. A, because I think that's part of my moral compass, and B, we put art in the gallery that we love to sell. And I think art is one of the, having gone to art school myself and the sculptor and being a sculptor, the whole idea of what art does to people is sometimes not easily verbalized. Art is an uplifting, emotional, psychological thing that has an effect on people that is sometimes absolutely not really easily explained.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're totally onto you're on the right thing when you talk about it that way, Ron.
Well, it's interesting because, as I look back over my life, I have regrets of pieces that I didn't get that I should have got, but usually you're busy doing something else, or I don't know, you just let it slip past. And I think about them almost every day, like the ones that got away. So I try not to let that happen anymore. But, if you really responded to something, maybe that's supposed to be yours,
Absolutely.
And I think everybody walks away seeing something different in each piece. So tell us a little bit, Ron, about culture jamming. What is it, and why is it a passion of yours?
Well, again, it's I like when I went to art school, I assumed that I was going to take a very practical route, and I would be an advertiser. So I went into the first seminar, where they kind of explained what the course is about. And actually, it was funny because they said it's going to be really hard. You're going to work really hard. And I thought, well, it's my first year of college. Maybe I don't want to work hard. Maybe I want to go to a lot of cake parties or something. And so I just walked to the next seminar down, and it was to be an art photographer, which I never understood what that was. I thought maybe you did illustrations for books or something, but they didn't say it was hard. So, but it was kind of interesting because guess what? There was nobody made a living off art photography at that point. The greats at that moment were Dwayne Michaels, Jerry Uelsman, Diane Arbus. She'd already passed, but I'm saying none of these people that actually could make a career out of it. They always had to be a teacher or a commercial photographer or something, because the art world at that point hadn't really accepted photography as an art form. So I instead of picking painting the coveted art form, I picked the underdog art form. But and then I ended up working very hard, very much harder than all the people that went into advertising. So I didn't seem to be afraid of hard work. But the thing is that I never quit thinking about advertising, and so I started doing parodies of advertising, and then trying to do them in the same space that advertisers use, like billboards and supermarkets and stuff, and tell the other side of the story. So in a way, like there was this giant industry called advertising. There was one lone guy like doing the anti-advertising, or the counter to the advertising. So it was a very, very fun space to be. And it's also interesting because I also looked at advertising differently than other people did, because I looked at it, most people, like if you watch one of your friends watching sports, they'll like be yelling at the TV, and it's like, no, don't pass the ball. You're open, run. And it's like, well, they can't hear you. And I'm the same way with advertising, because sometimes they'll disparage their own product to try to be funny or something. And I'm like, the ultimate goal is advertising is selling the product. And, if being clever can help you sell the product, great. But, sometimes it hurts you, and, but I don't think other people watch advertising like sports. They don't yell at you're blowing it, dude. You're putting a bad light on your product, man. Come on. Now, it was funny. My wife, worked at Booz Allen Hamilton, and they would review people's business models and then give them a better version. And then there was they with one company, they kind of went, I can't say who it is, but they were trying to figure out why they didn't have a certain population, or I don't know. They were trying to revise their kind of advertising. They said, well, here's something you can do. There's a thing called a brand zealot. And a brand zealot is like your Uncle Larry who only drives Fords. Now maybe I want a Japanese car. I don't know. But then when it's time for me to purchase a new car, I may end up buying a Ford because, I don't want to roll into the family reunion in a Japanese car because, Uncle Larry's going to give me hell because he just loves Fords. He loves Fords, and, you got to be driving a Ford. So he actually is an influencer inside his circle and his family. And the idea that they proposed is that you reward these brand zealots, and just mostly with an acknowledgement, like you send them a free cup or something that says, "Hey, we appreciate you as a customer." And then the ad that came out from, you know, being given this information about brand zealots was making fun of brand zealots. So of course I'm yelling at the TV. It's like, no, you're supposed to exploit the brand zealots and make them feel like they're part of the family, and not make fun of them and demean them. You know, but you know, it's kind of, advertising is funny because, you know, when you hang around with advertisers, you want an obi, or, you know, you want to make the most clever, memorable ad. But if you look at ads, it's like some of the ads I look at, it's like, I love that ad, it's really funny. What the hell was it for? You know what I mean? So I think,
Exactly.
you know, because artists are making the ads, they're a lot more interested in the, you know, art of it than they are the commerce aspect of it. So they don't really care if your company sells 100 million other more units because of your ad. They care if they get the award and all their friends like buy them a martini because, man, that was the funniest ad ever. You know.
So let's go back to PopAganda. This is Ron English's virtual show at Pop International Galleries, and it's taking place now through October 15th. Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about how this virtual exhibit's going to run?
Well, sure. So a lot of it is, sort of, I don't want to say hit and miss, but we're not used to these virtual kinds of environments to be having shows. Ron was at our last event actually with Tat's crew, and, there were hundreds of people flowing in and out of the gallery, and you get a glass of wine at the back, and that's done. And,
Yeah, and meeting people you never thought in your life you would meet, you know.
exactly. Um, so it just sort of, given COVID and given the circumstances that we're suffering under and dealing with, we figured, you know what, let's try something that we've never tried before with somebody that Ron knows I've been trying to get in this gallery for the last 10 years, someone whose work I absolutely love and admire, and someone who ties in directly with what Pop International Galleries sort of represents. It was sort of like a no-brainer to go for Ron English, PopAganda, Pop International Galleries. It was sort of like these sort of links that sort of all came together at the right time, at the right place. So what we decided to do was, actually, besides all the press stuff which Hilary is doing with this and other things, was that we would actually have a virtual exhibition. And the virtual exhibition would include every piece that Ron sent us, that we create an online catalog for. He is now available to be bought in our web store, which we call the Pop Shop, which is based on the old Keith Haring idea from a long time ago. So Pop International now has its Pop Shop. And then we decided that we would have an actual RSVP to a virtual show. And people say, how could you have an RSVP to a virtual show? And what we decided to do was sort of what we're doing here, that serious collectors would RSVP to an event where we would have Ron as our guest. Hopefully he'll be sitting in his studio, if that's at all possible, with art around him, and maybe give us a little tour or walk around and show us what he's doing and how he does it. And then chat a little bit similarly to the way we're chatting now, and then have a moment where people could actually ask some questions. I'll moderate it, so to speak. And I can tell you that from the first email that we've sent out to everybody, the response has been remarkable. People are just sort of based on what Ron was saying earlier about how people love art, they need art. This is a time and place in the world right now where people are at home and looking at their art or collecting art, because we've sold a bunch of art this last month or so, sort of speaks of a larger thing that art does. And so the actual mechanics of going into this was sort of trial by error, so to speak, but we've got it sorted out. We have a blast gone out. Another blast is going to go out shortly. We're going to do an Instagram live thing with you. One of our consultants here who knows you well, Lulu, will be doing that with you. Um, it'll be put out on our social media everywhere. And we'll have an RSVP event, a virtual show, which is sort of an unusual thing. And so that was sort of the thinking and the thought process as to how to actually execute it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, people see your real studio and how you really work, where, when you have an actual live event, I don't wear a suit every day, and, and I don't hold a cocktail in my hand every day. But now, they can see how the process and how it's makes. And I think a lot of people are kind of fascinated that actually do build like little dioramas to make one of these pieces, So you'll see like,
Yeah, I didn't know that.
yeah. I mean, how would you? But if you do the live feed show from the studio, you can actually see all that stuff. And here's the model I built to make the ship that's in the background of the Captain Cornstarch.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That is so cool. Wow, that's awesome. So tell us how people can get in touch with you and learn more about PopAganda and Pop International Galleries.
You're asking me, I assume. Well, it's all over our website. It's all over our social media. We actually created a little email called ronenglish@popinternationalgalleries.com. But our website is probably one of the best ways to see what's going on at popinternational.com. The email is a great way to reach all of us because some of us are still working remotely, although the gallery is open every day now with contracted hours, and very few people allowed here, with one art consultant working at a time. The phone still works, email still works. There's all kinds of ways to reach out to us. And
give us the information so that our listeners have it.
Okay, so the telephone number is 212-533-4262. I'll repeat that, 212-533-4262. Our website, again, is www.popinternational.com. We're reachable in two ways, just at popart@popinternational.com or ronenglish@popinternational.com. There are any number of ways to really reach us.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. I really appreciate
Can I just say that
Yeah.
Ron English Instagram is where I show new works, just Ron English, and I have a Fans of Delusionville Facebook page where I show a lot of the process stuff and also show a lot of the music that goes along with all the stuff. I also have a band called The Rabbits with 3 B's, RABBBIT,
I see,
on
yeah.
Spotify and everything. But yeah, that's just inside the studio process shots of how, like, I'm building the little ship, now I'm painting the little ship, now I'm photographing the little ship, and now the little ship's being put into the painting, and then now the painting's in the gallery. And so you can kind of follow along as stuff gets created there. Fans of Delusionville.
So I was just going to say, just before we say goodbye to one another, if you could talk just briefly about Delusionville as a concept, as a way to draw people in, and how it's sort of features and is so important in what you do.
Well, Delusionville is where I've completely created a whole different world. It's a world that is down this rabbit hole. There's over like 200 unique characters in there. Every plant is created by me, and it's unique, and it has its own kind of life. They have their own sports, they have their own religions, they have everything. So what I wanted to do is for the rest of my life, just complete or create this entire experience, and where I control every character. There's over 200 songs written, by the Rabbits. The Rabbits are the avatar for the Delusionville. Different people play the different characters, so it was just a way for me to kind of take everything I've been working on for the last 40 years and put it all into one thing.
Awesome.
Great.
I want to thank Jaffe of Pop International Galleries and also Ron English. And the show is called PopAganda. You got to check it out. It's very, very cool. Also check out Ron's Instagram page and Pop International's Instagram page.
At Pop Gallery.
Pop Gallery's Instagram page. I also want to thank our sponsors, the Russo Law Group, the Profit Express with Tim Healy, Pop International Galleries, thank you, the Donna Drake Show, and Fortune Fine Jewelry. I really appreciate your support. I also want to thank you, our listeners, for listening in each week. If you need more information about this show or any other show, visit us at hilarytopperonair.com. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Apple Podcast, SoundCloud, and now even Amazon Alexa. I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.